It's been a great session so far, don't you think? I've really enjoyed listening to the speakers, learning really about the cool new stuff. And I had put up a tweet a little while ago, which was about how in 2006 I was a keynote speaker at SOMAR in Barcelona, and I was literally on stage with a message of saying that you have to literally embrace change and technology if you want the industry to survive. And fast forward to 2014, and it is so heartening and exciting to see that not only is the industry and the players and the people in this room and the ones who couldn't make it here embracing change and technology, but they're actually going after one of my favorite words in the English language, which is innovation. So I always say it's not about ride or die or laugh or die or whatever. I think it's innovate or die. And that is so great to see innovation being embraced by everybody here. So on that note, I'd like to start this next session, which is about, and I hope I'm looking at the right session, translating in-the-moment insights into actionable innovation strategy, which is the key topic here, with Tom Trenta and Sara Moscowitz. Did I say the names right? Please come on stage and impress us with all your wonderful thoughts.
Introduction. So we got the dreaded post-lunch slot. Hopefully the cheeseburgers and cake will go down well and we can keep everybody engaged for a bit. Nice to meet you guys. My name's Tom Trenta. I'm the chief strategist of Egg Strategy. I'm with my partner and client, Sara Moscowitz from Sci-Fi Channel, which is part of NBC Universal. There's a couple titles to the show. The first is The Art of Smartphone Ethnography, which we are excited to share you. We've heard a lot today about mobile research. There's a big difference in our head between the world of mobile research and what we're doing in the space of smartphone ethnography, and part of that is about taking time to see things develop. So really the name of the show is The Longer You Watch, the Better It Gets, which is the way we think about the studies that we're doing, and frankly, hopefully the presentation as well. So a little bit of an introduction on sci-fi. For those of you who know the channel well, they're known for some really evocative, creative, engaging, interesting programming, such as Face Off, Dominion, and Helix. Very famous, of course, for Sharknado and the upcoming Sharknado 2. For people who don't know the Sci-Fi Channel, you may have some preconceived notions of the kind of guys who sit in their basement by themselves and watch the Sci-Fi Channel. Part of what we were doing on our project together was to do a good job of illuminating really who the audience of the Sci-Fi Channel is so that they can have a more engaged conversation with their audience as the network is trying to market their brand out to the public. So I'm going to talk for probably the first 10 minutes, and then Sarah's going to give a great case study showing how we're using our approach to smartphone ethnography for what they've done to bring their target to life and what they're doing in the public.
Great.
Seem right and good?
I'm going to have a seat while you talk.
Come on over that way. So I think what's important from a beginning understanding, I've heard a lot of guys up here talking from their tech background. So Egg Strategy is a front-end strategy and innovation consultancy. We were never a tech firm. We try to find ways to engage with people in the ways that they want to engage with us. So for many years, I and my team did loads of qualitative research. We looked back and added it all up. I think I've done more than 10,000 one-on-one interviews, eat along, drink along, shop along, focus group, whatever those may be. And when you talk to 10,000 people about the way they interact with brands and the way they interact with categories and the way their families work together, you learn a lot about whatever you can capture in that hour or 90 minutes or half day in their home. But it does leave you wanting a bit more for, well, what happened last week and where are you going from here and how can I see a bit of a broader story? And as technology developed, it really led us to start to think about, I can learn a lot from you in 90 minutes, and I've got a team of expert qualitative researchers and ethnographers who can learn a bit in an afternoon. But what if I could spend 25 days with her? 25 days with her would let me really understand much more about what's happening in her relationship with her family, in her relationship with brands and with categories. I could spend 25 days with her. On paper, I could spend 25 days with her. They look the same, they've got the same age, they've got the same kids, but well, I guess really different stories to tell, different challenges that they've got going on, and when you can spend time with people, you can really start to see those stories. Or we started in this business trying to get in the moment. It was all about understanding in the moment research. I want to be in his hand as he's having this moment of decision, trying to decide what beer to drink. After hundreds of those studies, you get good at it and you start to think about, all right, being in that moment, cool. What I'd really like to know is what happened the last 6 times he bought beer, and what's going to happen the next 6 times he buys beer, and can I start to really understand him as a person as he cycles through the decisions that he works his way through. So we're going to work our way through these longer terms. After she plows through this pile of salty chips, is there wonderful feelings that come with that or feelings of remorse that come with it? If I ask her in that moment, I can learn about the moment. If I spend time with her, I can see her through time. And with that, we've got this great sense then that the longer you watch, the better the story gets. We've got a platform that's named the Over-the-Shoulder platform. We've been doing it for 5 years now with most of the world's famous brands. We've worked with many or some of you in the room. Importantly, I'd say I've heard a few conversations about people trying to figure this space out. We've been doing it for quite a while. We've had 50,000 days with people in projects in 22 different countries, where through a day we've interacted with them and engaged with them. We've collected 100 million pieces of data. We've got a team of people who are sitting behind the machines watching it as we come through. Global scope, a beautiful back-end reporting. And for us, because it's been developed by strategists, it's a really powerful tool when you know what you're looking for and when you can put all that great information in the hands of somebody who really knows how to do with it, understands brands, and can turn it into some strategy. We're going to take you through some of those stories. So as a point of comparison, I thought I would start first with some awesome in-the-moment evidence, doing a study to understand the way somebody interacts with a category and interacts with a brand. And hopefully the audio will work back there.
So I am cracking a beer, first beer of the night. As you can see, it is the Miller Lite Retro can that I've really been into lately. And I don't think I really drank Miller Lite that much before these retro cans. But I just like the can, honestly. And I know that kind of makes me a victim to their marketing scheme, but whatever.
I love that. Finding the moment. I never was really into this brand. Now I found this new package and suddenly I'm attracted to this brand. Great, wonderful in-the-moment insight of why it fit into his hand in that time. It begs the question, though, of what were you doing the week before? What are the other brands that fit in this space for you? Can we explain why that brand that suddenly wasn't relevant, suddenly became relevant to you when it wasn't relevant for a long time? So we try to spend long times with people. And when you spend long times with people and they become comfortable with the technology, you can start to get some really nice personal confessions and personal stories where they can talk to you in ways where they're not in the heat of the moment of your category, but instead reflecting on their life. So in another study, we were trying to understand the social pressures of fitting in certain cities. This was a whole study done about Miami. If anybody knows the social scene in Miami, it's like a frickin' status arms race. It's all about one-upsmanship and trying to be cool and be in the right place with the right thing. And this is a nice candid moment where we talk to the guy in the middle of the day about being him in the place that he's in, and you can just feel the emotion when he's able to talk to this phone.
The people in general and the superficiality that comes with it. I'm not a big fan of it. I never have been, and it's just not a fun thing to be around. I think when I go to other cities, like even Washington, D.C., even in New York, I don't see it as bad as it is here. The people here, they put on this persona in front of everybody, and they have to be somebody and be seen. It's not my style.
So then later, when you see him out on Friday night making drink choices, it suddenly has some context because you've been with him through time, and you can understand the role of the brands that he's working with. We were working with a company to try to understand how to help women age with grace. We've got 2 extremely different videos that you get back, and you feel these personal connections to people. The first one I'm going to play for you is her point of view on the way that she looks as compared to the next person in the way that she looks. Just tells a story about their life that is really a wonderful way to get into that.
Right here, get like a chin lift or whatever you want to call this sagginess lift. I've always hated the way that sags. Get some fillers here, Botox here, probably up here, and some type of eyebrow lift. I think that would make me look a little bit better, make me feel more confident about myself.
And here's a woman I've never met before, in the comfort of her own home, having spent 2 weeks engaged with me, opening up and giving me her innermost secrets about that thing underneath her chin that's bothered her whole life. And when you can find that, or you can compare it with people who are having awesome days or people who are having terrible days,
I dislike the feeling of feeling physically unattractive because emotionally I have had a very difficult day. Just the stress of work, traumatic situation that happened earlier in the day, and probably it being midweek and just the exhaustion of everything that comes with life, such as work, family, kids, finances. Just been a really difficult day for me today. And I dislike the way this stress has taken its toll on my physical appearance.
You really feel for her, right? You gain empathy and you gain a sense of what it is that she's going through. And when you have time that you can spend with her and you understand what's happening in her life, it's really valuable to the people who are trying to create the products and the brands that are going to connect with her. I'm going to do one quick other example, 2 fun product examples before going to Sara. One about snacks and one about beer. You know, when you ask somebody why they do something and you sit down in front of them and say, why did you do this? They'll say, it was impulsive. I don't know. I don't really have a good example. I don't have a really good answer for why I did it. But when you start to collect enough inputs, you can start to see a different story. And if you've got hundreds of people feeding you several answers a day through a good enough amount of time, and you've got a team who knows how to look at it, you can start to see all the interesting patterns that's happening out there. So when you've got enough people in a study who are documenting for you everything that they're eating through time, so 100 people showing you, here's what I had for breakfast. And you ask them, was that really satisfying for you for breakfast? And they say, no, it wasn't really satisfying at all, but it's what I had for breakfast, and it's the choice that I had today. I brought it from home. Then we look at the snacks that they're bringing from home. Apples, yogurts, Lara bars, Cliff bars, nuts. And you say, was that satisfying for you? And they say, well, no, not really. It's just what I had, brought it from home, and I wasn't terribly satisfied by it. When they then go out and they go to McDonald's and they plow through sausage egg McMuffins, or then they go and they have a giant donut and coffee and Frappuccino, and they say, it was an impulse. I hadn't really thought about it. It just sort of jumped out at me. The sudden urge to do something, we might argue, is not just a sudden urge. They've been repressing a need. They've been repressing the need to have something different. They've been having cold, dry food for a couple days. You can see through time that finally when they get the chance to have a sausage McMuffin, a coffee, and some hash browns, of course it makes great sense. In addition to that, we love this one from the beer category. So we're doing a study of big guys who drink big beer. So if you know what alcohol volume is in beer, most beer, a Bud Light, a Coors Light's about 4% alcohol. Some of the craft beers are maybe 5% alcohol. There's a category that's 7 and 8%. Mickey's, Ice House, bigger beers. And most of those big beers are drank by guys that look like this. Guys that look like this, that take down a giant 24-ounce, 7% alcohol Bud Light. For people who don't drink a lot of beer, 2 of those would knock you over. These guys, though, if you look at them, they're big dudes, 250 pounds, 6'1", 6'2". This is what they're drinking for beer, and if you watch enough through time and you ask them what they drink, you see a lot of this. Mickey's, Steel Reserve, Bud Ice, Steel Reserve, Old English, Steel Reserve, and then in between they're interspersing a couple things. I'm not sure if you've ever had a Steel Reserve before. They're a client of mine and I'm friendly to them, but it is bitter, pretty awful stuff. It's 8% alcohol, it's cheap, it does a good job, but after you have a few of these, there's a need to move on to something else. So when you start watching them, these guys, the picture of them starts to change. Because they start off as exactly who you think. And can anybody take a guess as to what they were interspersing in between all those bitter beers? This. A tiny little strawberry Rita, a Lime-A-Rita. And if you start to think about it, when we started to see the first few, we thought, oh, it's just a blip, it's just an anomaly. But if you actually look at all the things they're actually eating, they've got a giant sweet tooth. If you look at how they use tobacco, they're the ones buying all the menthol cigarettes. And they're also the ones drinking the grape soda and the Dr. Peppers and the sweet drinks. So that when you have a string of dark, bitter things, it then isn't that much of a surprise when you see them turn to a Lime-A-Rita. And actually, who knew, but it's not pretty young blondes who are driving the Lime-A-Rita business. It's 250-pound inner-city black guys who are driving the business. Like, what an interesting finding and an interesting way to start thinking about marketing to those guys. And it's only through the ability to look through a long lens to be able to see those things. We wouldn't have known we were looking for that if we hadn't taken this approach. All right, so with that, I'm going to flip over to Sara. The way that we think about this is that technology is really changing the way a brand can learn about people. And we together did a study that tried to bring to life her audience to the group that she's most interested in talking to. So with that, I'll move this way.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me today. So we at Sci-Fi, you can see our tagline is Imagine Greater. And we like to say that everybody imagines, but there's some people, there's a special group of people out there who imagine greater. And that's our viewer. That's who we super serve on a regular basis. We've looked at a lot of syndicated research to try and understand what sets aside the sci-fi viewer from viewers who view other networks and don't watch sci-fi. And we've noticed a certain number of patterns through syndicated research that's helped us draw some conclusions that are kind of interesting. But we wanted to really dig more deeply into that audience and really understand and kind of follow them through their lives and understand what makes them pointedly different than viewers of other networks in their real life. And look for patterns of behavior that we, as Tom was saying, that we didn't know what we were looking for. It was important for us to use a research that was as innovative as these big imaginers themselves. And that's part of the reason we chose to work with Egg Strategy. So for example, you see there are groups of men and some women on this page who look similar at face value. They might have similar demographics, characteristics, backgrounds at face value. You might put them into your same target audience. But some of them are actually very different and behave differently than others. And we suggest that they actually are more valuable consumers. And so when we're talking to advertisers, we're saying, hey, you know what? There's something about this person, because they're highly imaginative, they have all these other behaviors and traits that make them a more valuable consumer to you. And we wanted to kind of dig in and understand that. So when you're out there targeting a group of people, you might cherry pick and select some that might drive your brand forward faster than others. What if you knew, as you looked at that big pot of people, which ones to cherry pick that were actually going to drive your brand and your product purchase faster than others? So we worked with Egg Strategy. We had a 100-person sample. They were split into two groups. They're basically identical groups of people, essentially, so they tell me. But split them into two groups. Some watched sci-fi and the others didn't watch sci-fi. And they were completely blinded. They didn't know that this was a study that Sci-Fi was doing. And Egg Strategy also had access to all their social media. So they were able to talk to them and ask them questions on a regular basis throughout a period of a couple weeks. But they also were able to look at all their social media and look for all types of behavioral trends and things that they could group together. So I'm going to share with you a number of things that we learned that you wouldn't actually know or think about necessarily that makes sci-fi viewers different than others, but this is all true. And first is that they're explorers. They have this distinct willingness and openness to find and try new things, more so than non-viewers of sci-fi. So for example, there's like big gaps in this stage. For example, you notice this just even in their snack food choices, something that you might not have necessarily thought there was a pattern there, but they were willing to try more different kinds of vivid flavors and all different kinds of snack foods than viewers who don't watch sci-fi. And that was both with unaided and both with kind of the unaided way of asking the question and the aided question to be able to say which snack food names list that you've had in the past week. And we still see that the sci-fi viewer is trying more than the non-sci-fi viewer. Similarly, we saw the same with fast food. Which restaurants have you eaten at in the last week? They're going to more different types of fast food and quick service restaurants than non-viewers. And why would this necessarily be so? We notice it with their wide range of shows on the DVRs. They are DVRing more shows, just in general, of every type of genre than a non-sci-fi viewer. More shows in total, and just the average is even higher than the non-viewers. And we noticed it even just with their breakfast choices. What did you have for breakfast this morning? What kind of drink did you have? Tell us the details of that. The non-sci-fi viewers were just having coffee more often than not, whereas the sci-fi viewer, and we call them igniters, are trying more different kinds of inventive breakfast beverages. So you look at all these different, again, moments in time, as Tom mentioned, and at face value they seem like nothing, but when you add them up, they continue to tell more of a story. You know, the last one, again, is about craft beer. Tom's a huge beer drinker and lover and has a lot of beer clients, but you notice that, again, the non-viewers, the non-igniters are drinking more kind of average mainstream beers, and an igniter, a sci-fi viewer, is willing to try more different kinds of beers, a lot more craft beer, a lot more adventurous in that. So they're active explorers out and trying and finding new things across the board in all products and services. And that led us to another key finding, which is that the more they were out there exploring, they became very informed. They're learning about all new things, and they suck up the information. They want to know everything about it. And then they become these perceived experts. And we all know people like that. It's the person who knows how to use the Google Glass, and you're going to go ask them how to use it because you don't know how, and you know that they went and they figured it out first. So staying with the craft beer theme, we have, I think her name was Raina, right? Yeah, Raina loves exploring craft beer and trying all kinds of things. And so through the research, we noticed that she's posting tons of this information all over all of her social media. She gets excited about it, and she sees all the cool stuff that she can try, and she's sharing that point of view, both photographs and comments about everything that she finds. And she's explored so much that she's become pickier and more in the know. She makes certain remarks and opinions about what she sees and thinks and how it tastes and things like that. And people start to see this through all of her social media, as well as just the conversations that she's having with people. So she develops these strong opinions that are really worth sharing. And I mean, she's taking tons and tons of pictures again and sharing more and more of it. But she's becoming an expert that way. Everybody that is friends with her in all of her social media or follows her in any of her social media can see everything that she's talking about in this regard. And there were many more examples like this, as craft beer is just one of them. And they start to perceive her as an expert, so that when they want to know about something, they're going to ask her. So that leads us to another piece, is that we say that their heart is in it. And this is really all about passion, right? She loves craft beer so much that she's exploring it voraciously and becoming an expert in it. And that comes from a place of passion. So igniters, the sci-fi viewers, are actually much more passionate and absorb themselves in their interests, even more so than a non-viewer. There was a pointed difference in that behavior. And you can see Caesar here, huge fan of Game of Thrones, and you can see everything that he's talking about and sharing and learning about and citing and discussing in all of his social media and everything that he's doing online. This next one is one of my favorites. I think it was around Christmas time. This gentleman got his new television that he'd been waiting for and literally is hugging it and posting a picture of it online. And I think 74 people liked it. Yeah, that is demonstrative of a very strong emotional attachment that he has to. I personally, I'm not an igniter. I would not hug my television when it arrived. I might be very excited about it. But he's hugging it again and posting a picture of it online. He's that excited about it, and he's that excited to dig into it. The next thing that we learned is that timing is everything. And that has to do with the timing at which they find and adopt various products. So for example, they're first to share their opinions about new technology. So I think this is Kristen, actually. She took the entire day off of work to purchase the Xbox One as soon as it was available, and is posting pictures and sharing her experience about it all over her social media, making sure that she was the first one to have it and the first one to experience it. We noticed this also with movies. They were the first folks in line on the first opening day of weekend. So Stephen, for example, has seen 9 movies opening weekend in the past few months, compared to non-igniters who were not seeing nearly as many movies opening weekend, or waiting until everybody else kind of saw them.
I'll do this one for you.
And this is really my favorite. This is Andre, and I think he was asked, "What did you have for breakfast this morning?" And this was the answer.
Hi, this is Andre Ripley, and as you can see, I've been in GameStop all day since 10 a.m. I'm waiting for the PlayStation 4 to be released, and this is pretty much how my day is going to be going, all the way to 12 midnight. So I look forward to checking in with you guys later, but I doubt if I have any time to eat.
We do love that. We do love that one. We didn't say, "Are you at GameStop and are you getting the new game?" We said, "What's for lunch?" And he said, "Lunch." Xbox One comes
Right.
out today. I'm standing here at GameStop. Who's got time for lunch? And we just caught him in that moment, which we thought was awesome. So you want to show the couple ads and then we'll be done?
Sure. This was a campaign we did last year. So the more that we can understand what makes our audience different from other audiences and how there's an important consumer value there for our advertisers, we share it in our communication. So this was an ad that we did last year to the ad community, and it says 9,000 people test drove my car with me. I'm your social media, sci-fi-igniters.com, that's our website. So really trying to show the power of that consumer, and we learn about the power of that consumer through this kind of research. This was from our campaign this year. You can see there's a photograph of all these folks trying to just get their way into a bar, and it says, tweeted about happy hour, now I can't see the bar, need my mojito. And then we created a hashtag for Sci-Fi Igniter. We also created a handle for Sci-Fi Igniter. Feel free to follow it. You'll learn all different kinds of tidbits of information and what makes our audience different. Within about a month, we had over 5,000 followers on our handle. So it's become really valuable and really actionable for us.
You stop there?
Yep.
And this last one. Okay, 20 minutes goes really fast. Thanks everyone for your patience. We have a chance for a question or two? Or
yeah, we might have one or two questions. If anybody has a question, please raise your hands. Otherwise, everybody give a big hand to our speakers.
Cool.